We would like to thank the Chicago Library Commissioner Chris Brown for allowing us to convene in this beautiful room today. This is one of 6 conversations. We thought it was incredibly important to create a venue specifically for young people to share their experiences, thoughts, and views with us. We have 3 goals for all of these events. First, we want to inform. Then, we want to be a thought partner. And then ultimately, we want to hear from you. So by inform, we want to be sure that you know what has been done, is being done, or is planned. We want to also be sure you understand that the resources available in the city to help with a range of issues, services, and opportunities. On your table, you will see a sheet that lists all of these resources with the colorful boxes. If you arrived early, there will also be a resource fair immediately following this, and I know I've mentioned it, but there's also refreshments over to your right. There's also a flyer on the table that shows our 2022 budget investments, and a flyer, which we'll talk about later, for a teen bash that's happening on Saturday, the last Saturday of spring break, that you all are invited to because you are here this morning. So that is your ticket into that bash. Everyone in this room, including law enforcement, knows that law enforcement is not the only answer to public safety. Addressing the root causes of violence is key. If you look at that flyer, you will see that $1.9 billion total in youth programs, jobs, housing security, trauma recovery, public health, mental health, and other services that we know prevent violence from happening in the first place. Significantly, these figures do not include the billions invested in our sister agencies, CPS, parks, CHA, and libraries. All of those investments also help address the root causes of violence by giving people purpose, program, and hope. We have already asked you to complete a survey, which we hope you've done. That's a little page on your table. You also see a sheet on your table where we ask you to work together as a group to share with us things that you think should happen that will make our city safer. These sheets will be collected at the end of this meeting, and all of your ideas will be consolidated and compared to the insights that we are collecting in other regions, and will be captured in a report that will be shared and prepared after our engagements are completed. Finally, and I suspect most importantly to you, is that we want to hear from you. And we appreciate you getting up on your Saturday morning to be here with us. You received a question card when you signed into the event. There are also some blank ones on your tables. Please fill them out and give them to a city staff that will be walking around the room. All city staff, raise your hand. All right. There wasn't a lot of hands. There's a lot more city staff than that. All city staff, raise your hand. Okay, all right, appreciate it. By collecting questions, we have found that we are able to group them together and get through most of the topics. It also gives us insight into the most important in the communities we are. We promise that we are not doing this to avoid tough questions. It is often the tough questions that get us closest to the resolution. The mayor, the police superintendent, and other city leaders will be arriving shortly. They want to hear from you and answer as many questions as they can. Those that are not answered, again, will be captured and responded to in the report. With that, I would like to turn it over to Commissioner Brown to welcome everyone here today. Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Kahari. What a gorgeous room to all be gathered in. Over the last 2 years, we haven't been able to really have this kind of audience, and I feel we're back to fulfilling the mission of our library. In every neighborhood of Chicago, we have 81 branch libraries with similar spaces to gather and serve our youth. I think youth are one of the core audiences that we serve and are committed to. We have U-Media spaces where Chance and No Name got their start. We have public art by Hebrew Brantley and Scent Rock. And if you haven't seen our U Media in this building, down on the first floor, I hope you'll check it out. We have out of school time and teachers in the library to support our students. And we're really pleased to be able to host all of you today, especially this gathering of the youth in Chicago, because if we can't provide safer neighborhoods, we can't do our work as the Chicago Public Library and send you on your way and support you in fulfilling your dreams. But of course, safety and violence is such a complex it's a complex problem which requires collaborative solutions. And so I'm glad that we could be here today to host all of you and have more of our city enjoying the assets that make the city great. So thank you all, and I'll turn it back over to Kari.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. All right, we're going to do a little icebreaker. All right, so turn to a neighbor, and we want you to ask them. We want them let them know your name, let them know two things about your neighborhood, and if I'm not mistaken, those are two questions. Yes, that's it. Yeah. So we'll give you a few minutes. So turn to a neighbor at the table. Just introduce yourself. Let them know two things about your neighborhood. All right, so if you did not sit next to someone that you already knew, then you got to know someone. You got to know someone new. So does anyone want to share something about the person that they met? All right. Someone will be to you in a second. Yeah, put the mic.
How you all doing? I'm sitting with a group of young people who are excited about finishing their school year off strong, and they're encouraging all of these young people in here to keep their swag on A and finish their school year strong.
All right, thank you. Any other volunteers? We got one.
Hi everyone, my name's Marshall, and my friend Jeremiah, who I just met, he lives in West Blooming, right, Tim? West Pullman, and he enjoys playing basketball, and some facts about his neighborhood, he sees a lot of young people outside.
All right. Two more if possible. And just FYI, people are receiving really cool My Shot, My Future hats. You got one in the back.
Morning, everyone. Today I met Maya from West Pullman. Two things about her neighborhood: a lot of abandoned buildings and some great schools. And I'm Lee, by the way.
Thanks for saying, Tamara. Here's a hat.
All right. Anyone else? Oh, we got one over here. We got one over here.
Where? Right here? All right. Here, stand up in your shoes. Thank you so much.
My name is Malachi Riley from West Pullman, and I wanted to know, what do you do if a stranger asks you for help, and who are the safe people in the community, and how do you identify them?
All right. So is that one of the questions, or was that what you all talked about when you met?
It's a question.
It's a question? Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
I said, what do you do if a stranger asks you for help, and who are the safe people in the community, and how do you identify them?
So Kahari, maybe what we could do is we'll have that be the first question when we do the Q&A.
Sounds
a little
great.
later. Okay.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Great question.
All right. Thank you. And what's your name, and what neighborhood are you from?
Malachi Riley and West Pullman.
All right. Thanks, Malachi.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so at this point, again, hopefully you met some new people from different neighborhoods and learned some things about them in their neighborhood. I'm going to call up Chief Navales here to share you from our Chicago Police Department to share you a little bit with you about himself.
Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see everybody gathered here today and to see so many young people. And for me, it's coming full circle. Can you guys hear me? I'm not used to speaking in front of a microphone. So, Chief Navales, every day that I hold this position, I'm surprised that I'm here and that I've had this great opportunity. And the reason I say that I feel I'm surprised and I'm grateful that I'm here is because I came from the neighborhoods in Chicago. I grew up in Humboldt Park, on the west side of Humboldt Park, east side of Humboldt Park, and in Wicker Park. And I grew up there in the 80s and early 90s, back where my neighborhood had 25 different gangs. So I think about how did I make it here, coming from a poor family, living in a neighborhood that was incredibly difficult to navigate because even going to school, I couldn't take a direct path to school. I went to Wells High School, and Wells High School was approximately 2 blocks from my house, but it usually took about 6 to 8 blocks to get there with all the turns that you had to take to avoid the things that were going on in the neighborhood. A lot of my friends that were really dear friends to me and still are dear friends to me made decisions that took them down a wrong path. They made bad decisions, had bad consequences, but I still have the warmest feelings for those folks. So I grew up in the area, like I said, 25 different gangs. Back then, the Harrison Gents were fighting the Ashland Vikings right in the blocks where I lived at. The Milwaukee Kings were fighting the SDs in the neighborhood as well, so it was very hard to spend time outside. So one day I was fortunate enough that ran into a young man who said that he was going to the local park. And I remember following him there and going to Eckerd Park and meeting the park supervisor there who welcomed all the kids as they came into the park. So at the time her name was Mickey Meyer, and she made sure that anybody that was a member of the gang would take their colors off when they were in the park. So she began to create that safe haven. So I knew that that was a safe place to be. So from the ages of 7 till I was 23 years old, I hung out at the park, even after I was a policeman. While I was in that park, I got to meet a lot of good folks, and what I mean by good folks, some were involved in a gang and some weren't. But when we were at that park, that safe haven that Chicago Park District offered us, it was a safe place to be at. So as I was getting older and I was at that age where you could be courted into a gang, and yes, and I was, I was constantly courted, but the folks at that park anchored us and made sure that we did make that decision. So the very first job that I got was with the Park District. I had the opportunity, I hung out at the pool. I was a pool rat, is what we called it back then. And I became a Chicago Park District lifeguard. So at the age of 16, and for any of you guys and gals who are 16 out there, and you want a great opportunity and a great summer job, man, that lifeguarding was great. And that summer job turned into a winter job. And I was fortunate enough that I got to work back at Eckerd Park. And I had the opportunity to coach kids that were in the same place that I was. So sitting down and speaking to the young folk and really listening to some of the things that they were going to, it wasn't much different than what I went through. It was much different. I remember when you were picking what to wear in the morning, you made sure that you weren't wearing the wrong colors. Because back then, the gangs still would come after you if you were wearing those wrong colors. So I got to coach, and I got to see how important it was to deal with young folk, and how the mentorship that you could offer them, the way it was offered to me, would allow you to go down that right path. So I worked as a lifeguard for a very long time, and in the winter times, I got to participate in a football league that was running out of Eckerd Park, and it was run by 2 police officers. And those officers, once again, became coaches and mentors in a neighborhood that was plagued by gang violence. And they kept telling, hey, you know what, and they would tell all the kids, you guys should become police officers. And to me, it wasn't something that I wanted to do or cared to do. And the reason why was because, 1, I was afraid of the police, and number 2, I never had a good interaction with the police at the time. The good interaction, slowly I began to see them in a different light because I got to be coached by them and got to spend time with them and realize that they were just like everybody else and that they actually wanted to help. When I hear young folk talking about how they're afraid of the police, and when they encounter the police, they'll run, right? And that's a very, very difficult thing to negotiate. I remember feeling that way when we'd see the squad car turn the corner on Noble and Walton. As soon as I saw the car, man, I'd run because I had that fear. But having the opportunity to engage with the officers in the football program, I got to see them as people, and that fear started to go away. And I realized that they were there to be just as helpful. So I ask you young folks to give any program like that allows you to engage with the police an opportunity. You'll see that a lot of us are there, and we're trying to help. So after being a lifeguard and getting to coach and getting to know the police, I was actually able to take the police exam. And it was the greatest decision that I made because it afforded me the opportunity to work with kids and with folks in the neighborhood and give them whatever I could to show them what it was like to be the police, so there was an understanding so they wouldn't be afraid of the police, right? So, long time later, almost 20 years later, I became the commander of community policing. So one of the things that I wanted to ensure was that we created opportunities for young folk to engage the police. So I'm going to cut this short because I could speak on this forever because I'm incredibly passionate about it. And I look at the faces of the young folks here, and I remember being in that place and having those apprehensions. So we have a lot of programs within the Chicago Police Department where youth can participate, whether it's the Explorers, whether it's the Police Athletic League, whether it's the WIDACs. What I ask, and I put an invitation out there to the young folk here, please participate. Walk into your local CAPS office, ask how you can be part of what we're doing, and get to know the officers. And then I ask you, after you get to know them, to determine that they're good people, and take advantage of that opportunity. The other thing I wanted to say is for those kids who have made mistakes, the Chicago Police Department understands that we make bad decisions sometimes. And I was one of those kids that I was one decision away from being where they were at. is that we do want to engage those emerging adults, those folks from the ages of 17 to 24, and we want to help them, find that right path again. So if you're in that spot, just because you made a mistake doesn't mean that you can't participate. You're welcome to participate as well, and we want you to. So with that, I'm going to cut this short and say that, hey, I'm just a Chicago kid that grew up in the hood, and the city gave me a lot of opportunities, and I was able to be here, a chief in the second largest police department in the country, doing what we can to build a path for young folks to do the same. At any point, if you have any questions in regards to the program, I'll be floating around. Don't hesitate to come and talk to me, especially you young folk out there, because I want to hear what you guys have to say, and I want to be able to share my story on a more personal level so you guys know that there is opportunity in this city, and this is a great place to grow up. And last thing I wanted to say is for those, and this is one thank you, and the thank you is to all those adults who take the time every day to help the young folk. For those of you that are out there, thank you very, very much, because policing isn't just a police problem, it's an everybody problem. So thank you very much for all the effort, all the time that you guys volunteer to make sure that our young folk are safe, they're coached, they're mentored, and they're going in the right direction. And you guys do that with no pay. And for that, I want to say thank you very much. And like I said, I'm going to end this now. And if you guys want to talk to me, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chief Navales. If you have a phone, raise your hand. A phone with you right now, raise your hand. Great. Does every table have at least one person with the phone sitting there? All right. We're going into an activity where you will need your phone. So take your phone out. It's called AHA Slides. So take your phone out, and you go, if you can see at the top of the screen, it's a little small, but it says ahaslides.com. There's a /, and then capital LR9CG. So you're going to ahaslides.com. If you do that, at the top, it'll ask you for a join code, and the join code is LR9CG. You see at the bottom, we got 4 people on so far. When we get to 50, we're going to start. But again, it's ahaslides.com, or you can also use the QR code. Perfect. All right, we're at 50. We'll give it a little more. And okay, can we go to, all right. So, first question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you feel in your community? It's a range between, it looks like a range between like 4 to 7 to 10, okay. All right, next question. What does community safety look like to you? So you can just put in the answer. Funding, love, no violence, kids, togetherness, proactive, walkability, kids laughing. Love is the one that's getting more. Peace, organized, youth empowerment. Love seems to be the one that's sticking in there, so love. All right, what's the next? Oh, and peace, love and peace. Next question. How do you know when youth are being invested in? So we have something on your table that talks about the investments, but how do you know and feel the youth are being invested in? All right, thank you. You can keep giving answers, but we're going to take this time now to move. We just want to start thinking a little bit more about safety, about youth investment, and we feel we'll have all of this, but we want to move now to our tabletop activity. So at your table, you should see a sheet of paper with our main question for you, which is, what are your top 5 priorities when it comes to addressing community safety? Okay, what are the top 5 priorities when it comes to addressing community safety? So discuss it at your table, and then there's a sheet that you can actually fill out to actually put those 5 priorities, and we'll be collecting them to include into the report for the mayor. So, does everyone see the sheet? Okay, all right. So please have that conversation. Top 5 priorities for addressing community safety.
Hi, hi everyone. I am Jonna Richardson, and I am the Public Safety Chair on the Mayor's Youth Commission. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate everyone taking the time and just being dedicated to our city and wanted to make a change and sharing your thoughts. So the Mayor's Youth Commission is comprised of the public safety team, the public health team, neighborhood development, and also education. And so these are the working groups, and we work closely with the mayor's office and mayor's office staff. And we also have created our own initiatives and that youth are looking for. And so public safety, our group's main goals were to increase transparency and collaboration with youth and city officials, because we know that there is a disconnect between youth and the city, but we want to increase that gap. We know that youth care about Chicago and our city. We know that youth are passionate and they want to be heard. And so the public safety group wants to elevate everyone's voices. And so last year, we started off the year in our looking closely at carjackings, which were on the rise in neighborhoods across the city, especially during COVID. And so we started off with focus groups with people that were most affected, and we talked to them, and city officials were there. And then after, we use that as an opportunity to shift and make face-to-face meetings, which are meetings with youth and Chicago officials, where youth can talk about things like youth diversion programs or working with the police. And this year we're focusing on community development and how that influences safety. So maybe things like street lights, or cleanup in your community and how that affects your safety. And so we will be having face-to-face meetings at the end of this month and over the summer. And so everyone, we would love to hear your perspectives. We want to hear you all, and I want to hear you as another youth and work amongst you all. And so if you're interested in the Mayor's Youth Commission, being a part of it, that would be great. There's going to be a resource table and little thing going on after this that you can, sign up for the Youth Commission and sign up for our newsletter and get to know more. So thank you all, and it is now my pleasure to introduce our Mayor, Lori Lightfoot.
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful for all of you who are in attendance today. There's lots of other things that you could be doing on a Saturday morning, but choosing to be here is important. It's important because the adults in the room really need to hear from you. We talk all the time, we formulate policies, we work with groups that deal and are on the front lines of working with youth across our city, but in too many instances, we never hear from you. And that's why this event today is so important, and I really want to congratulate and thank the members of the Mayor's Youth Commission for really putting in a lot of hard work to think about how we could structure a conversation that would really elevate the thoughts, the concerns, and the emotions of our young people across the city. So thank you to all of the members of the Mayor's Youth Commission. Let's give them a hand. So normally when I'm at these town halls with adults, you know, we talk a lot about the things that we're doing, the ways in which we're trying to work hard to make sure that we bring safety. All of those things are important, and I think you've heard from speakers earlier today. So I'm not going to talk at length because I think this is really an important opportunity, again, for us to hear directly from you what your pain points are, what you feel like you need and people in your community need to really bring peace to neighborhoods, to schools, and to make sure that we are really focused on creating opportunities. We are literally investing hundreds of millions of dollars across this city for programming related to people like you, meaning young people, meaning job opportunities, meaning mental health, meaning trauma services, meaning bringing into schools and parks and libraries other things that you can see that give you hopefully a spark of interest in opportunities that actually exist right here in Chicago. And I know from being out in neighborhoods across the city that we don't do enough to make sure that you get to see and experience this entire city. Too many young people, in my conversations with them, don't know or are afraid to go outside of your neighborhood unless you're going to school, and then you're going to school and you're coming back. But this is an incredible city. It really is an unbelievably incredible city, full of wealth and opportunity and exciting and fun things. And I want all of you to feel like you've got ownership in our entire city, not just your block, not just your school, not just your neighborhood, your entire city. So one of the things that I hope you do today, because as I walked around, I could tell there are young people from all parts of our city. Get to know the people in this room that you don't know, right? You came maybe in ones or twos or maybe in a little larger groups. Talk to somebody that you don't know. Talk to somebody who has a different experience, who looks different than you are. And make sure that you take advantage of this opportunity, because too often in this city, as great as we are, we're still, unfortunately, one of the most segregated cities in the country. We've got to break down those walls. And it's got to be you who do it. We're doing everything we can to make that happen, but right here, right now, today, in this moment, there's an opportunity for you to take those small steps. Get somebody's digits, as my 14-year-old would say, that isn't from your neighborhood, and form a conversation and a relationship with them. Take advantage of that opportunity. I'll say one last thing, and then I'll sit down. We really want to make sure that we get it right for you. We really do. Every single one of us focuses on how do we make life better in this city today, tomorrow, and in the future for our young people. It is a sincere effort. We invest tons of time and money and other resources to get that right. And there are lots of adults from different organizations I see across the room who spend that time. So I want to also say to the adults, one of the things that I heard loud and clear in the tables that I was in is they need us to be more present in their lives. this table here, right? One of the themes was we need to see adults who are present and care about us and love us and are taking us under their wing to help us in those tough moments, to help us problem solve, to help us just feel like we are somebody who's worth the time and investment in. We all know that we should be doing that, but I want to repeat to you what I heard here today. It is a plaintive call for us to stand up and do more, because obviously what we're doing right now isn't enough. There are too many young people in this room who do not feel loved. Too many. And we've got to change that around if we're going to change around the trajectory of their lives. They can't just move through life with no one reaching out their hand and loving them. And they need it. And they need us. So I'm going to stop there. We look forward to your questions. We'll try to answer them as best as we can. We may not all know all the answers, but I hope you will hear from the people that are in this room a sincere desire to engage, to hear, and to listen, and be present for you in a way that maybe you haven't felt like it before you walked in this room. I want you to walk out of this room knowing we're committed, and we need your direction. We don't want to talk at you. We want to talk with you, and we want to walk your life's journey with you, hand in hand, and pick you up when you fall, but you also pick us up when we fall, because we're not going to get it right either. Not all the time. It's impossible. All right, but again, thank you so much for spending your Saturday here. Hopefully the conversations at your tables have been rich and interesting and sparked some ideas in your head. And we want to connect you to that, but also your passions, so that you can live a life that you deserve, that God has intended for you. So, have we introduced everybody who's up here? All right, I'm gonna start to my left, so that you know who's in the room. And the other thing you should know is we always make our city commissioners come to these meetings. Why is that important? Because they need to hear from our residents. We are here to serve the people. You are the people. And so I want you to see across the room, not just the people that are on the stage. We'll take a moment to introduce other folks that are here in the room that are listening, taking notes, and making sure that we are being as responsive as we possibly can be to your lived experience. So let me start with our host, the Commissioner of Chicago Public Library, Chris Brown. And if you want to say a word of welcome, or maybe you already did.
Oh, I got to chat with everybody when we first started, and just again, thrilled to have you all here together in community, and it's great to hear from you.
Pedro.
Good morning, everyone. Pedro Martinez, CPS CEO. I couldn't be prouder of our students that are here, from elementary to high school. You know, at your age, I never got a chance to have these kind of opportunities. I grew up on the Lower West Side, and I'll tell you, it's amazing to me to see the changes in our city, some for the very good, and then some areas that still need a lot of improvement. So know that we are here for you, but students, I am so proud of you. Thank you for being here and for just sharing with us your concerns and your questions.
I'm David Brown. I'm police superintendent for the Chicago Police Department, and I'm here, and I've walked around a little bit and spoken to several of the young people and some of the adults that have really great programs to help young people. I'm here to listen more than talk. I need to hear your concerns, so please, don't hold back. We need to hear sometimes really tough challenges.
Democracy that people get to express themselves. And we just saw an example of that. That's important. But what's also important in a democracy is that we respect each other. We're not going to always agree on every issue. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Madam, you're going to be respectful. You're going to be respectful. No, hold on. I'm speaking. I'm speaking, ma'am. You'll get an opportunity, but I'm speaking. I'm speaking, and you're going to be respectful. So one of the things that I hope we learn in this conversation is to be respectful of each other. One of the challenges that we face in America today, Chicago's no different, is that we alienate people who have different points of view. We talk over each other when we should be listening. And we've got to do a better job. If we're going to solve problems together in this city, we've got to be respectful and assume that people come to the table with good faith. And if we're not willing to do that, we will never solve problems. We'll continue to be alienated and divided. There's lots of emotions on a range of different issues in our city, but in this room, we will be respectful of each other. All right? Thank you.
And so the irony of that outbreak was that the first question in our pile was about the Anthony Alvarez case. We are not trying to suppress questions in this room. We have collected questions because many of you have the same questions. And the way that we get through most of them is by putting them in piles so that we can address the sentiment, even if it's not the specific question. There were several questions, Superintendent, about
All right, you heard from Superintendent Brown. Please.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Tamara Mahal. I'm the Chief Coordination Officer for Community Safety, and I oversee a Community Safety Coordination Center that the Mayor activated in August. And at the Community Safety Coordination Center, we're bringing together all of the different city departments and agencies, partnering with the county and the state and community-based organizations to say that violence is a symptom of deeper root causes in our community. And we're looking and working to address the need. We need to address the degradation of the physical environment that persists in our communities. We need to make sure that we have opportunities for youth and adults alike. We need to address the trauma that exists. And we're working to bring every resource from the government together to act in service of community. And I just want to acknowledge I had the opportunity to sit at a table where many of those things were talked about, but one was also the need to bring this type of engagement into the community so we can provide more opportunity to regularly listen to youth and young adults. And I'm committed to making sure that that happens so that today is really just the start and we can continue in partnership working together. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Allison Erwitti. I'm the Commissioner at the Chicago Department of Public Health. You're used to hearing from me on COVID issues, and it's been lovely today to talk about things that are indirectly, but not about COVID. I want to give a shout out to my table. This is the third one that I've been at, and we had, I think, the most robust, specific conversation about different ways that the city, the health department, the police, CTA could be thinking to serve you better and to help us come out of COVID more strongly. So thank you all. You've got great ideas, and we want to hear them.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brandy Kanazi, and I'm the Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services. We support young people from early learning through youth all the way through the senior years. I'm joined here with me. My whole team is in the back. They're at a table. Please stop by our table. We're signing people up for One Summer Chicago. That's our summer jobs program. So really hope that you all take advantage of us being here today. Other thing is I'm a native of Chicago and a graduate of CPS. So just really happy to be here and learn from you all.
Can we have any other commissioners that are in the audience at tables stand up and then introduce yourself? Go ahead.
completely free to you. And take this news to your parents.
You
okay?
want to say the free part again.
Yeah. If you get a B average at Chicago Public Schools, community college is completely free to you, okay? But I want to, yes, here in the city of Chicago, that's what we do, okay? I want you to carry this message too, okay? Right now we have 100 programs in high demand fields where you can get a good job. It's for you or a member of your family. It's free to any Chicagoan in the city of Chicago through City Colleges of Chicago. And so Future Ready, if you're interested in getting your career started or advanced, come see me. I'm sitting right here.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ken Meyer, Commissioner of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, and I'm going to challenge Dr. Erwitti because I do believe table number 11 is the best table, and it's been just great conversing with our youth here at this table, and they're giving me some great ideas. For those youth in the room, you know, if you ever are going to and from school or in your neighborhood and you do see a problem business, you do see maybe a small convenience store or a business that you're just not pleased with, always call 311. That's the easiest way to just say, could someone from Business Affairs come out and look at this in this business? And we'll be happy to do it. And I have some new friends here, which I'll be following up with and becoming hopefully some mentors to these youth. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Johnson. I'm standing in for our Superintendent Escareno, who couldn't be here today. I'm with the Chicago Park District, and like the Commissioner said, as far as free programs, we have so many programs at the Park District, and I just have to give a plug out for our jobs. We have a lot of summer jobs. I will be here all day. I will give you my business card, and you guys can, I want you to apply for jobs. We have a bunch of jobs in the Park District. Thank you.
So, before we get started, I do want to explain the process. So, again, I'm Tina Hone. I'm the Chief for Community Engagement for Mayor Lightfoot. We collected question cards from everyone. Those question cards were sorted by category because there were themes that kept coming up. And we wanted to be sure that those themes were actually addressed. And if we went question by question, we can't do that. Every single one of these cards, and there are hundreds of them, will be saved and they will be sorted. There were 6 of these town halls. This one was specifically designed for young people to participate in. All of the findings from this town hall will be collected and analyzed. The sheet of paper that you all filled out with the 5 things that keep the community safe, those will also be tabulated, and they will be analyzed in conjunction with the other 6 town halls. I actually, Mayor, I think if we could, there was a question, quite a few questions about Anthony Alvarez, and I was wondering if the superintendent could respond to the concerns that were raised and the pile of questions that we have here.
I was told to keep my answers real short, so this is the shortest way to describe not this particular case, but all cases like this one that was raised by those that were wanting us to hear them first. When an officer is involved in a shooting, whether someone is wounded or killed by that action, there's 2 investigations that happen. One is a criminal investigation. Another is an administrative investigation. So what they were upset about, they were shouting down because state's attorney decided the criminal investigation would not go forward on that particular case. Next, though, is the administrative investigation, which is done by COPA, which is a separate agency to CPD. COPA investigates all police-involved shootings, and they find whether or not the shooting violated our policy. And then, if so, they recommend a level of discipline. That package of investigation is forwarded to my office, and I either agree or disagree with COPA's findings. Regardless of whether we agree or not, the police board another separate agency makes the final decision on the officer's employment. That's just the administrative portion. So a criminal and an administrative investigation that happens, state's attorney does the criminal, COPA does the administrative, the police board makes the final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. So I do have some helpers here today to do Q&A. One of the questions that kept coming up consistently was, why are adults planning these things? We didn't just do it alone. So I want to start with, is it this side first? Who's first? Sure.
Right here.
This side is first.
Yep.
Introduce yourself and then ask the question, please.
So tell us your name, the school, and maybe the part of the city that you live in.
For sure. Thank you all for being here. My name is Anushka Lal. I'm not an adult commissioner. I'm a mayor's youth commissioner. I go to Walter Payne College Prep. I'm from Lincoln Park. So, Mayor, we had a lot of questions about youth making decisions. And so Michael from the Austin neighborhood had a question. What is the city doing to get the youth involved in making decisions to better their community?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. This forum is obviously a big expression of what we're trying to do to get youth involved. Whenever we do budget town halls, which is the process that we engage in before we formalize a budget that is submitted to the City Council for consideration, we engage in very similar activities all across the city, and we want youth to be involved in it. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is standing up, I think, the first ever Mayor's Youth Commission. This is the third cohort of youth commissioners, and we select young people from all across the city, different walks of life, and they work on different problems of their choosing. They get access and exposure to me, various city commissioners, and other people that work in the mayor's office, and then, as I said, make recommendations to us. Another way in which we get young people involved is every summer we have mayor's office fellows. And that's another way formally that the mayor's office gets young people involved. I would say the other thing that's important is, as you heard from the lady from the Park District, there are a range of opportunities for young people to get involved across the city. Many of you known for years After School Matters. But in addition to that, Mayor's Youth Commission. There's a Green Corps that allows young people to get involved in activities in improving the environment in your neighborhoods. The Park District has a range of different programs. CPL, Chicago Public Libraries, has a range of different programs, as does CPS. And we've got, in addition to CEO Martinez, we have Jadine Chow. Go ahead and stand up, Jadine. Let them see you. Who does a lot of work throughout the year in getting young people involved. So there's lots of different ways in which we are doing outreach to you. One, to put money in your pocket, which is always important. And number two, for us to get involved with you and make sure that you have an opportunity to pursue your passion. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Mayor. It did.
And we're going to go to the other side. Introduce yourself, school, neighborhood, right?
Hi, my name is Isali. I go to the Chicago High School for the Arts, and I'm from the Austin neighborhood. We have some questions about youth during the summer. This question is from Luane, also from the Austin neighborhood. And they say, what does the mayor have planned for the youth this upcoming summer, and how can we keep them safe?
Go ahead, stand up.
Perfect question. So good morning again, Brandy Kanazi. So we have our One Summer Job Chicago program. We've got 3 programs. One is Chicago Ability for young people ages 14 and 15, so quite not old enough to work. They receive a stipend of $450 for the 6-week program, and that's really about career exploration. There's a project at the end where the young people present a project for their cohort. The second program is our Summer Youth Employment Program. There's over 10,000 opportunities with DFSS alone, but then with our partners, there's many more opportunities. That's our traditional jobs program. This year, thanks to the mayor's investment, thanks, Mayor, we're able to pay young people $15 an hour, and that's 20 hours a week. And then third is our newest program, the Chicago Youth Service Corps, which is actually year-round this year. And so starting in July, going all the way throughout the school year, it's an actual service learning corps for civic engagement. And so you'll be able to come up with a capstone project. It's groups of cohorts of 20 young people in each cohort. And the purpose is really about coming up with programs and solving issues that impact you, led by you, and are solved by you and your community. Lastly, I just want to say that we also have enrichment programs through the Department of Family and Support Services. There's about 11,000 enrichment opportunities that span year-round in partnership with CPS, where you're able to receive after-school programs either during the school year, during school breaks, or through the summer. 2 ways to sign up, onesummerchicago.org, and then all of our programs that we have are on My Shy, My Future. Oh, the last program I didn't forget is our My Shy, My Future Summer Kickback Series that'll be going on this year about event planning. Young people, you'll be able to sign up for 20 hours a week, earning $15 an hour, and really plan activities in your neighborhood. My table was all the way over there in the corner, and we talked about event planning, so this is a perfect opportunity for that.
So I really want to lift up the kickback series, but part of the question was, what are you going to do to keep people safe this summer? Get involved. And the kickback series is a perfect way. You get paid, you come up with programming specific to your neighborhood that you think young people would be involved in, and we support it with finances. So please take advantage of those various opportunities. And can somebody share, or JD, can you talk for a few seconds about what we're planning for spring break?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys go to www.myshinemyfuture.org, you can find hundreds of opportunities over spring break. In 5 communities, we're going to be doing days of service. Also working with the Park District, they got about 20 days of service that are planned. And if you participate in one of those, or by participating in events like today, you're able to come on April 16th to the Spring Forward Teen Bash, which will be at Navy Pier. There's a flyer on all your tables. From 1 to 4, it's going to be a big party, a lot of fun, so hope to see you all there.
Thank you.
And if I could just tap in on this discussion, I want to hold up a particular question from Noel Peacock from Austin. And it's a subtlety based on what we've been discussing, and it is, how do we encourage young people to focus on bettering their community? So it's not just about the jobs.
So how do we focus on
having young people focus on bettering their community instead of, it's not just having a job for themselves, it's a broader question.
Well, I think the Youth Service Corps is really probably the most specific way. The question was, what do we do to have young people focus on bettering their community? And many of you are involved in local activities, whether, again, at the park, at the church. But the Youth Service Corps, which is now a year-round program, is really focused on just that thing. You, again, participate in conceiving of projects that are needed in your community. So you tell us what you need, we pay you, and then we provide resources to really bring those projects that you believe are important in your community to life. I think that is one of the most powerful ways. And then there are a number of different community-based organizations all across the city that are involved in different activities. But formally, from the mayor's office, the Service Corps, to me, is one of the most effective ways. And as I said, there's a whole lot of information on this side of the room about all the opportunities that we're talking about. All right, who's next?
This side?
Yes, my name is Malcolm Pinkston. I attend Chicago Bulls College Prep as a senior. I live in the Roseland area. And this question is in regards to mental health and trauma, which we received a lot of questions about. This is specifically from Tyler, who lives in Brighton Park. And he asks, when will there be more help for mental health, specifically for treatment as opposed to trauma?
You want to take that on?
Sure.
So, thank you. And my table talked about that. And I think, honestly, we had major issues with mental health for young. Do you want to hear what I have to say? Okay. that there were a lot of issues, I think, that youth and adults, unmet mental health needs before COVID. But during COVID, like so many other things, this got worse. And I think a lot of the isolation, a lot of the lack of connectivity, a lot of the lack of supports have landed in a lot of cases, especially hard on teenagers. And so under this mayor, we have been able to make real investments in mental health, and with a particular focus on youth. You might know the public health department is all about prevention. Mental health is not just treatment, it's about how do we talk about mental health. We're going to be launching a campaign called Unspoken, where we take mental health issues that everybody has to some level and turn this into something that we talk about, just like physical health. Get rid of some of that stigma, have this be something that is part of conversation. My table talked about suicide prevention. My table talked about making sure that there are trusted adults and counselors within schools, and when people have mental health needs that go beyond, where they're needing to see a practitioner, a clinician, we can get them connected. So under the mayor,
Ma'am,
I'm answering
please,
your question.
Please be respectful, okay? Please be respectful. Please be respectful and stop.
Like as an address, we're happy to take that because it's a big topic. The main focus of the public health department, we had about $12 million for all mental health in the city of Chicago when Mayor Lightfoot took office. That might sound like a lot of money. It is not a lot of money for almost 3 million people. And this year, if you look at your sheet, we're up to $78 million, 7 times, maybe even more, 80-something million dollars. Yeah. Including the outpatient work, more than $80 million. So we've grown that funding, but not just the funding, we've grown the ability for people all over this city to access treatment, to the question. We were serving about 3,500 Chicago residents and no children or adolescents in Chicago's mental health clinics when the mayor took office. That is just not okay. With the investments that we've been making, funding additional treatment, especially with a focus on child and adolescent, we now have child and adolescent services available in our clinics, but we've gone from serving 3,500 people to 50,000 people this year. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, it is still not enough. This network is called Trauma-Informed Centers of Care. It is literally about recognizing the traumas that all of us have and making sure there is treatment available. But we're also working to make sure that mental health resources are not just in clinics, and I think especially for young people, that's important. Because where are you? You're at school, you're at the library, you're in sports programs. Making sure that if you have mental health needs, we're talking about those in those settings, getting you connected there, as opposed to you having to make an appointment to go to a mental health clinic. Some people, we want to connect you to a mental health clinic, but for a lot of folks, we're working with CPS to make sure that those opportunities are available at school and we can connect you beyond. We also, for the very first time in the city of Chicago, are sending mental health professionals out with teams when people call 911 as a pilot. We believe that it is important that people have ways to call and get services that are not involving police. Later this year, 988 is going to be launching. You're getting a preview. It's not formal yet, but it's going to, 911, right, is the number you call for an emergency. 988 is going to be a new number across the whole country for mental health and mental health emergencies. Yeah. And it's going to be open. There's going to be text options. We're figuring out what that looks like. But we are very committed in the mayor's administration and at the health department to having no wrong door for mental health services. Yes, to address the traumas, to make sure people can access treatment, and we need your ideas about how best to meet these needs for youth, because we have a long way to go. So thank you. We've got a regular youth group that advises the health department, and if you want to be a part of that, you can reach out and let us know. They've been very helpful as we've been crafting these some of these initiatives, and we're going to continue growing them for as long as we have the funding to support them. Thank you.
Sebastian, hold 1 second. I wonder, there were some things that we weren't able to present at the beginning of this event. And one of the things we weren't able to present as clearly as we should have is the investments that are being made, nor were we able to really clearly articulate the incredible prevention-focused work that Tamara is leading. And so one of the questions that I have is, what's the best way to bring violence down? I think we could talk about, the trauma, not treatment. What we said at the beginning, and I'll repeat here, everybody in this room knows that the way that we're going to stem violence is through addressing root cause issues. And so Tamara, I don't know if Tamara could address some of the root cause work that she's doing, so the room can get a little level set about that.
Thanks, Tina. Hi, everyone. As Tina mentioned, and I talked a little bit about, we recognize that at the end of the day, violence is really a symptom of different issues that persist in our community. They exist because of structural racism, decades of disinvestment and neglect that occurred, and they've created conditions that kind of lead to violence. And so what we want to be able to do is recognize that we need a public health approach to these challenges. We have policy and procedural reforms that need to happen. We have deep levels of investment that have to go to revitalize the economies and the commercial areas of our communities. But we also have to address what's occurring right now in terms of violence. We have to make sure that we're providing services for those that are at highest risk of violence. Sometimes that exists through programming. Yes, we're doing through schools and programming that the Department of Family and Support Services has to address young adults who might be at risk of violence, but also have kids. They're food insecure. They need housing options. And we also know that we have to support violence prevention services. Many of you may not be aware that there's a field called street outreach, community outreach. We have some workers in the room right now who go out and interface every day to work with groups and to negotiate peace conflicts so that we can stop the group, clique, gang conflict that continues to persist in our communities. We also know that we have to provide more funding for what we call victim services. Why? Because if you're shot, you go through additional trauma, you might experience substance use disorder, you might experience joblessness, and so it just perpetuates this cycle of violence. So what we're trying to do is say we have long-term solutions. We have to implement an equitable approach to make sure large investments are going into our communities. But while we're doing that, we have to implement a comprehensive strategy that addresses people that are struggling right now, today. And that's the work that we're bringing together to ensure that we can provide jobs, ensure there's educational opportunities, ensure we have affordable housing, and make sure that we are addressing, both through long-term mental health equity plans, but also solutions today, the trauma that we know persists in our community. And I'm very proud to say that we're one of the only cities in the United States that has literally brought their folks together to work day in, day out on this, and most importantly, to say, we can't solve this. The community has to tell us how to solve this, but we got to bring the resources and the solutions too, to be able to partner and back that approach. Thank you.
Can I just ask the folks that are doing street outreach to stand up?
I know we got a few folks.
Let people see you. And young people, if you don't know them, you should get to know them. These are folks that are deeply committed to peace in the communities in which they serve. And they put themselves on the line every single day to try to mediate conflict. Many of them have been in the life themselves, so they know the path that many people are walking on. So they speak with a measure of experience and truth, but they are deeply committed to being there for you. So I just also want to say thank you all so much for the work that you do.
Our final youth commissioner. And remember your name, your neighborhood.
So hello, my name is Annabelle. I attend Jones College Prep and I live in the West Elston neighborhood. So our question comes from Connor of the Austin neighborhood, and his question is, what are ways to bring everyone together so that everyone can be peaceful and work together no matter what color they're wearing?
That's a great question, and has a lot to it. Look, I think what we are trying to do with the investments that we are making and the way in which we are engaging in community is to really build in every single community safe places. And what that looks like and what it should be really depends upon the neighborhoods. Tamara talked for a second about the engagement that we're doing. And we literally have people in all of the challenged neighborhoods. There's 15 of them that we've identified through historical data. Many of these folks were at the table with us and helping address and solve problems with COVID. But what we know is that the absence of good jobs, opportunity, safe spaces, programming, engagement for youth, but also engagement for seniors. Hunger is a major theme across a lot of these communities, that the way in which we help build and support healthy and vibrant communities is by being in collaboration with the community and listening to the community for what your needs are. So you mentioned that you're from Austin, and we're doing a tremendous amount of work in Austin, not only investing dollars and improving streetscapes, but also talking at length to people in the Austin community about what it is that Austin needs, or Roseland, or Inglewood, or North Lawndale. A Little Village is another community that we're spending a tremendous amount of time and resources in. What that looks like, there's not one size that fits all, but I hope what you take away from today is that we are here to listen and to collaborate and be in partnership with you to build safety and peace in your specific community. And we can talk more about what we're doing in a particular locale if that's what you're interested in. Going here. If you have a question, write it out and we will get to you. Go ahead, Tina.
So I want to thank our youth commissioners because I think you all were asking those 4 questions, and so thank you for those 4 questions, and thank you to the other youth commissioners who are in the room who have helped us put this program together. So thank you. There were some very specific questions about school safety. And one came from, it's basically asking about the magnetic detectors in the high schools. Why are they at some and not at others? And why do security guards have the right to go into the bathroom? But that's one of several questions about school safety that I'm wondering if CEO Martinez, you might want to handle.
I mean, and so this is a big topic, and so one of the things I'll just commit to you. So first of all, Jadine and her team are here, so please know even after this, we'll be available for more specific questions. But just know one thing, students. One, we're committed to your safety. One of the things that we're looking at right now is just the consistency of making sure we have the right investments, but we also want to make sure we're talking to our students. I went to Benito Juarez High School. When I was at Benito Juarez, there wasn't metal detectors. Fast forward, there was metal detectors, and there was even a time when the dress code was so strict that frankly it didn't feel like a high school. And this was, and so that really, you know, for me, really troubled me. So I really want to work with you to look at your high schools, to look at your schools. What investments do we need to make in your schools to make sure you feel safe? And Jadine and our team, we focus not only on, you know, the equipment and the cameras, but we also focus on programs. How do we make sure that students have programs? And what I'm really passionate about, and I heard this in some of the tables, making sure that every school has programs after school, during the summer, so that our students stay active. Because I'll tell you, when our students are active in our programs, frankly, they feel safer. Our parents feel also safe that our children are involved in programs at school. So count on the fact that in our next budget, we are making sure that every school, without exception, has resources for after-school programs. We're going to have a rich set of summer programs. We're going to work with the mayor and her team because we want to collaborate. But that's the main thing I want to just make sure you hear, students, is we're going to be investing heavily in this, but we want to make sure we're also hearing your voices because, again, there's different things going on in different neighborhoods, and we want to be sensitive to that.
And if I could just add to that, you know, one of the great benefits that I have is going all across the city and seeing different neighborhoods and seeing different schools. And you know this. There's a wide array of the quality of the buildings in different schools. And frankly, it really depends on what neighborhood you're in. We can't tolerate that any longer in Chicago. We just can't. Now, we're not going to turn that around overnight because this is literally decades in the making. But I want you to know that I know it, I see it, and I'm committed to doing something about it. It cannot be that if you live in a particular neighborhood, maybe on the north side, you got a lap of luxury, everything that you need. But if you live in other neighborhoods, south of Roosevelt Road or west of Ashland, then you make good with something considerably less. So one of the things that CEO Martinez has committed to, and you'll start to see it manifest itself in the next budget, is really improving the physical plant of every school campus. Every school campus. Because I don't know about you, but when I walk into a nice building, it already lifts my spirits. It makes me feel like somebody cares about me. And on the other side of that, if I walk into a building that's raggedy, that the toilets don't work, the floors aren't clean, and all the other things that go along with it, that sends a message too. And the message that sends is we don't care about you. And that's not true. We do care deeply about every single one of our young people, but we've got to show it and not just say it. And the way we say it is by improving the quality of the buildings that you all are going to school in. Again, you got to be patient with us. We're not going to be able to turn this around. And one of my pet peeves, and the superintendent, the CEO Martinez knows this, we got to get rid of these trailers that our kids have been going to school in for 20 plus years. That is not right, it is not fair. You need classrooms, you need windows, you need fresh air. We don't learn well in trailers. And if we need to address that, that is a high priority for me, is to eventually get rid of every single one of the trailers that our kids, and generations of kids now, have been going to school in.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm combining three topics because they're all related, and they're related to what you just talked about, but in the community. There were a lot of questions about blight and abandoned buildings in the community, and how that impacts the community. There's also a lot of questions about homelessness and how do you help people who are homeless. And one question is, why can't we make abandoned buildings a place for the homeless to live?
So let's take those one at a time. Brandy, you want to talk about homelessness, and then you want to talk about what we're doing about blight.
Perfect. So Brandy Kanazi again, just level setting on homelessness, right? Homelessness is really about a balancing between the needs of the community and the rights for homeless individuals. In Chicago, it is not illegal for a homeless individual to live on the street. So what our team does is we really work with individuals to make sure that they're safe and secure. One of the things we've been able to do with an addition of $35 million in CARES funding, and that's funding from the government we received, is to house over 1,500 homeless individuals. And so we took people who were either living in shelter or living on the street and we housed them. And that's a beautiful thing, because when we make space in our homeless shelters and get people into a house, we know that they're safe and secure. During COVID, that was really important because we knew that folks who lived in their own home, had individual bathrooms, that they were going to be safe. What our plan is for the future is we've got a couple things going that are in the pipeline. One, we have an additional $20 million in ARP funding that's going to support this work of continuing to keep individuals who are in shelter or living on the street into rapid rehousing. So that's that housing piece. Second part is that we're also working with our AIS team to really look at procuring homeless, to that point, either a abandoned hotel or motel, and turning that into one shelter and then long-term permanent supportive housing. We've also been doing over the past year is working with our homeless shelters across Chicago. We have 50 partners who work with us to house homeless individuals. We have about 3,000 homeless shelter beds that we support. Specifically on the youth front, which is really, really important to us, we've done a couple things. We've got 4 drop-in centers for youth that are over 18 that young people can come in, wash their clothes, get supports, and just hang out during the day. But we also have 7 homeless shelters specifically targeted at youth because young people need different interventions. And so those are a couple things that we're doing. The last piece is that we're working with our shelter partners to really think about how do we transform the shelter system, right? Everybody's like, oh, you need shelter. Shelter is important, but that's an intermediary step. Long-term step is expanding the housing pool. And so if you know anyone who is looking to rent or has an apartment for rent, that's really important to us because that's how we're able to move people through the continuum. As you house people, you make more room in the shelter, and then you're able to bring folks who live on the street in. So it's a constant kind of move and flow in the process.
Want to take the
Sure. So, like I said, we know that the physical conditions of the community are a root cause of violence. And I'll just start by saying that budget sheet that's on your table, a large amount of that $1.9 billion is going to reinvest, especially in our South and West Side communities that have been disinvested in so long. And that looks like investments in commercial quarters. But it also looks like down payment assistance, money to help rehabilitate abandoned buildings, because we don't want to just continue to create more vacant lots, right? But it also includes a huge amount of money to go in and turn over vacant lots to make sure that we can look at them and sell them to neighbors who have already been caring for them for a long time, but also to make sure that we can activate community to take care of those vacant lots and say, we'll help, we'll give money. Do you want to do a garden? Do you want to put trees there? What does it look like for you to help us paint murals? And so we're going to be working quite a bit to address those issues, but we're also doing other things like addressing what we would call the streetscape. The city has a responsibility to make sure that, yes, potholes are filled, walkways are accessible, weeds are mowed, trees are trimmed, and that we actually have trees on the block, which is why the city is going to plant tens of thousands of trees and make sure that we can increase the green space. We want to make sure that you as residents are seeing and feeling that change every day on your block, but that you're also having an opportunity to engage and participate and help drive that change that's happening in your community, whether it's through programs like Invest Southwest that are overturning commercial corridors, or new efforts the CSCC will undertake to come to your block, stand with you, and say, let's envision what this could look like for the better. Thank you.
Thank you. This is going to be our last question because we're already about a half hour over time. Mayor, you know, Good Kids Mad City comes to every one of our events. Miracle, I think you're still in here. There you are. They're asking about the Victims Memorial and about the Peace Book Ordinance, and I don't know if you can address that.
Well, obviously, we're aware of both the Peace Book, and we're working on Victims Memorial. I remember way before most of you were probably around, on 35th and State Street, the first Sunday of every month, there would be a group that would hold a vigil to commemorate the number of people that had died that month, mostly through gun violence. There are so many people in our city that have been victimized on a number of different ways. And I think we I'm looking at my city council colleagues, I think it's a real opportunity for us to think about a way in which we can have a permanent space that memorializes the lives that have been lost, but also make sure that the ones of us who are here never forget. So part of what we've done in moving in that direction is stand up specific dedicated resources to make sure that we are being much more thoughtful and intentional around victims of violence. We have a full-time person that works in the CSCC that addresses those issues. We have been much more, I think, coordinated with a lot of the victims' rights advocacy groups across the city as a result of that. But I think an important thing for us to take the next step is to have a permanent memorial that really focuses on the number of lives lost and the number of people whose lives have been irreparably changed as a result of the violence that they have encountered. Gun violence certainly is a #1 challenge, but also I want to talk about gender-based violence, and particularly domestic violence. You know this as well as I do, that we have too many young people growing up in homes where violence in the home is commonplace. And, you know, Dr. Erwitti and others can speak to this from a professional standpoint, but I know when you grow up in a home where you are afraid of your parent or some other adult, then that has a dramatic effect on every other aspect of your life. You don't leave that fear at home when you go to school or when you go out into the community, and particularly young children that are exposed to violence at a really early age. It changes their brain trajectory and their emotions and how they respond and react. So that's another piece of what we are spending real resources on to make sure that we're doing a better job at the community-based level to address domestic violence in all of its forms. Since that's the last question, I'm just going to roll into closing remarks and do this. You know, we hear a lot in the news about how you all are portrayed. And I know if you see it, you don't recognize yourselves in some of the portrayals. And I'm going to put JD a little bit on the spot, but I want to talk to you about a good news story that I hope will lift your spirits, but also it's instructive to us of what happens when we are intervening, when we are supporting, and we are loving young people, even when they have strayed. All of you heard the story, I'm sure, last fall, of the 11-year-old who was arrested for carjacking. He led a crew at 11 years old, led a crew. When the police went to his house, when he was arrested, he had 20 key fobs in his house, which meant he was very deeply involved. And let me tell you a little bit about his life, and then I'm going to ask JD to tell you the good news part of this story. This is a young man who hadn't been in school in a couple years, and nobody missed him. That's a fail on our part. No 9-year-old should be missing from school for 2 years and nobody misses him and doesn't go and knock on the door and say, hey, what's going on? How can we help you? He lost his mother. She died. His father, gravely ill. His life was coming apart. He had an older brother who unfortunately was a heavy influence on him, who was himself also involved in the life, and we're still trying to help that older brother. But once that arrest happened, we did what we should have been doing beforehand, and I'm we'll let Jadine kind of tell the rest of the story. Can we get a microphone for Jadine Chow? You got it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Jadine Chow again, Chief of Safety and Security for Chicago Public Schools. Mayor Lightfoot is absolutely right. We let this young man down when he first stopped coming to school. A lot of our responsibility is to make sure we're giving supports where needed so that we can make sure we can prevent these kind of situations. The good news out of this, and I'm really excited to share, and by the way, this is not the only story we have, but it's one that Mayor Lightfoot and I talked about.
Well, Jadine, tell in particular what we have been doing to work with this young man.
So when this young man was released, we wanted to get him back in school, as he is entitled to, and the law also requires us to, by the way. And it was determined through a variety of reasons that the school he was aimed at maybe wasn't able to suit him the best. So we intervened and said, let's get him a school where he'll feel welcomed. Because safety is about feeling welcomed, and I think a lot of that came out in some of your questions. And so we found a school that said, we love him. We don't even know him yet, but we love him. We brought him in, had an orientation. He felt it right away. This is somewhere where I'm going to feel safe and welcome. We set up transportation for him because, as brought up earlier, sometimes it's hard for our young people to get to and from school safely. He can't just catch a CT, especially at that age. It's really hard for him. He can't drive. So how is he going to get there? We got him transportation to and from. In addition, we connected him to a mentor with our program, Choose to Change, which is a whole other program we haven't talked about yet, but Choose to Change mentor every morning went to his house, got him relationships that they trusted, that he trusted in. Every morning they went and made sure he was up, fed, in a good mood, dressed, and ready to go. Since that day, since that first day of school, he has not missed a day of school. Okay, we're so proud of him. Thank you. Two weeks ago, he made honor roll, okay? And I'll leave the last part out because it's a little bit personal. There is more to this that shows how far he's come in such a short period of time. And so we believe in the promise of every single one of our young person, working closely with referral systems to make sure that every young person going through this has the same type of supports that this young man has. We owe it to them. We owe it to every single one of them. So I say to all of the young people who came today, please, if you need support, if you're in CPS schools, if you're in city colleges, wherever you are, please reach out. And if you don't get an answer, all these adults here, the mayor, Commissioner Salgado, everybody is here. We are here to hold ourselves accountable so that we are making sure that you have the support you need. Is that enough?
That's good.
Okay. Thank you.
So I want to thank everybody for coming today. I want to remind you, you get a ticket to the party at Navy Pier because you were here today. I think they're on your table or people will pass them out to you when you leave the room. But thank you all for being here today. Thank you to the aldermen who came and stayed. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. And more to come. Thank you all so much.